Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Noah here, breaking down the NBA slate on Draftkings and Yahoo for Monday, November the 18th. We got a 9-game NBA slate today. We're going to talk through some of my favorite plays on Draftkings and Yahoo that I see the night before. I'll be sure to touch on the injuries that we have to keep an eye on going into Monday. As always, I do record these videos the night before. I'm recording this on Sunday night, so these are sort of my first looks at the slate. We'll talk through each position, talk about the guys that stand out to me the most. As we go, we will build out a core of 5 plays. These are 5 players that I see the night before that really catch my eye. We'll do a DraftKings specific core, and then we'll do a Yahoo specific core as well. Just a few things before we do get started. As always, I would appreciate it if you would drop a like down below. Likes are greatly appreciated. Make sure you comment as well. Feel free to comment anything regarding the slate. If you want to leave any feedback is always greatly appreciated. And if you are new to the channel, make sure you click that subscribe button down below. We're getting very close to 17,000 subscribers. It's pretty likely that we actually hit it on Monday, so thank you to everyone who has subscribed. My channel continues to grow thanks to every one of you who share my videos, who like the videos, comment on the videos. That helps me reach out to more people and just get my videos exposed to more people. This channel just continues to grow more than I ever thought it would, so thank you to everyone who stops by every day to watch my videos. I do greatly appreciate it. So make sure you drop a like, subscribe, comment. Also, if you haven't already, you can follow me on Twitter at DFS by Noah. Very active over on Twitter. You guys can give me a follow there. Stay up to date with me. You can DM me. My DMs are always open. So if you want to question or give me any questions, hit me up. You can do so on Twitter. But let's go ahead and take a look at this Monday NBA slate. We'll start off at point guard, and then we'll work our way through each position. We'll hit on some guys I see. So starting off at the top of the point guard position, our stud options here are like James Harden, Luka Doncic, Dame, Kyrie, which is a big question mark we're going to have on this slate. Right now, Kyrie is questionable heading into Monday. If he were to sit, that's going to open up a lot of viable plays, especially a point guard specific play in Spencer Dinwiddie, who we will talk about. But Kyrie's one of the studs we have on the slate. Kimba, Westbrook, just some other options. But starting off with Harden at 12K, we do know that Russell Westbrook is going to play today. Westbrook sat out on Saturday. It was the back end of a back-to-back. Harden did what Harden did what he's going to do. 41 shot attempts in that game, 39 minutes played. Only shot 39% from the field, 36% from 3. He still put up 66 DraftKings points in that game, 49 points, 5 rebounds, 6 assists. Obviously, with Westbrook coming back, that's going to cut into Harden's usage a little bit. He's not going to be a near 50% usage guy like he was in that game against Minnesota. For 12K, I don't know if he's going to be a top play for me on the slate, especially because we do have Giannis for $700 cheaper. Giannis's numbers with Chris Middleton off the floor have been pretty insane lately. He's also cheaper than Harden, and I like his matchup a lot against the Bulls. This was a spot where Giannis just went for 72 DraftKings points against them. So I don't think Harden's going to be a must for me unless we just get a lot of value and I can play him with Giannis. I'm going to be prioritizing Giannis over Harden today, just given the salary. So don't see myself really going to him. Obviously, guys like Luka are in play. Luka's just been awesome this season. 9,800 is still too cheap of a price tag for Luka. He should be close to 10.5, 11K most nights. The dude's averaged nearly 60 DraftKings points this season. 57, 74, 56, 59, 72. His worst game this season was in Denver. 27 DK points. You're not going to get 27 DK points from Luka on most nights. Most nights he's giving you high 40s, low 50s as a floor, and he's got that 65, 70 point ceiling. It's not a good matchup against the Spurs. It's a slow-paced game. Luka, though, where he's still, under 10K on DraftKings, I would want to get some exposure to. I don't think he'd be a core play for me today, but I would definitely want to have some exposure because he still remains underpriced, even in a tough matchup. And then you got these 8K guards, Lillard, Irving, Walker, Westbrook. Russell Westbrook's someone that really stands out at only 8,300, but he just has not been that effective lately, has just not been doing much. He's been shooting really poorly from the field, 30% in that game against the Clippers, 23% from the field in that game against the Pacers. The peripherals were there, to begin the season. We saw Westbrook have 2 games of double-digit rebounds and double-digit assists. Those peripherals have kind of come down recently. Clint Capella is expected to return as well for this game, which is going to take away rebounds from Westbrook. I did expect Westbrook to benefit rebounding-wise with Capella out, but now with Capella probable and expected to play today, I don't see Westbrook going out there and putting up a triple-double. He was so good to begin the season, just getting the peripherals. He was shooting pretty well from the field. He's just been in a little bit of a slump lately. I do like this game a lot in terms of pace and projected points. This game Right now, it does have a 231 total, which is one of the highest on the slate right now. It is actually the highest on the slate right now. Just a 6-point spread, so it's going to be a high-scoring, close game. If we do look at pace so far this season, you do have two teams that are top 10 in pace. Portland ranks 10th. Houston ranks 3rd. So this is a really good game to target. Westbrook at 8,300, I do have some interest in, and I would want to get some exposure to. He probably wouldn't be a core play for me on the slate unless he's just kind of the last guy in and he just makes it into my lineup. If I have $8,300 left, I would not be trying to differentiate my lineup and change stuff. I'd be fine plugging Westbrook in there. But don't think he's going to be one of the first guys in my lineup today, even at 8,300. These 7K guards, I don't really have a ton of interest in. Donovan Mitchell's a fine tournament play. The guy has a ton of upside. It's a good matchup against the Timberwolves, a game or up in pace spot for the Jazz. Jazz will be playing up in pace here. This Timberwolves team does play at top of the league in pace. Right now they're ranked 2nd just behind the Bucks. And Donovan Mitchell's been really good this season. Not usually a guy you expect to have 50-point games most nights. He's had 2 games this season over 50 DraftKings points. Rarely is Donovan Mitchell winning you tournaments, especially at 7,900. But that matchup is really good. It's a pace-up spot, so I could see getting a little bit of exposure to him. But again, I don't think he'd be a core play for me. Eric Bledsoe, I think, is still too cheap on DraftKings. We're going to talk about him on Yahoo in a second. 7,200 for Bledsoe. He really struggled that last game against the Pacers. Only 5 for 14 from the field. Only 21 DraftKings points, played just 26 minutes due to blowout. I would expect a bounce-back performance from Bledsoe. In this matchup just a couple days ago against the Bulls, he played 32 minutes, went for 49 DraftKings points. He shot really well from the field in that game, 85%. You don't expect him to shoot 85% from the field again. But we can run the numbers real quick just to see how this Bucks usage is when Chris Middleton's off the floor. There's 2 big beneficiaries. I've talked about it in pretty much all my videos recently that we've had the Bucks on the slate. It's Giannis, and it's Eric Bledsoe just doing everything for this team. 178 minutes so far this season with Chris Middleton off the floor. 35% usage rate for Giannis, over 2 fantasy points per minute, his average. If we go to Eric Bledsoe, 26% usage rate for him, 1.25 fantasy points per minute. Those are the 2 guys that are really going to benefit from Middleton off the floor. It's a really good matchup against the Bulls. Bulls are actually playing pretty fast this season. They do rank top 10 in pace. They rank 8th. This is another game that has a very high total, right there behind the Portland-Houston game. Portland-Houston 231.5. This game has a 230 total. Just a 7-point spread as well. This was a competitive game last time these teams played. It's expected to be a competitive game again, especially the games being played in Chicago, which helps. So I do like Bledsoe quite a bit at 7,200. If we go over to Yahoo, I think he's still one of the more underpriced players over on Yahoo. He's only $25. He's the same price as Chris Paul. He's cheaper than Devontae Graham. He's cheaper than Rozier, cheaper than Ricky Rubio. I would much rather have Bledsoe over all those guys. If I just project him for 32 minutes here, which is what he should play at the game's competitive, he projects for close to, if not over, 40 fantasy points. And at $25, that's just way too cheap on Yahoo. So going to be plugging and playing Bledsoe over on Yahoo, where he is still, I would say, probably $7, $8, maybe even $10 too cheap. $25, great price tag for Bledsoe. But now let's talk about some of these other point guards. So one big injury, along with Kyrie Irving, is Malcolm Brogdon. He's already been ruled out. It was announced he was going to be questionable, and then a couple minutes later, it was updated that Malcolm Brogdon's going to be out. The big beneficiary last game with Malcolm Brogdon out was Aaron Holiday. He did get the start, played a decent amount of minutes as well, even in a blowout, played 34 minutes, had 29 DraftKings points. His price is up to $5,500 on DraftKings, so I don't think he's a core play today at that price. I do like the matchup against Brooklyn. Pretty fast-paced game, pace-up spot for the Pacers. If we do look at pace so far this season, Brooklyn is playing at the 4th fastest pace. The Pacers are pretty low down here in terms of pace, I believe, if I can find them. Yeah, they're ranked 25th, so this is a pace-up spot for them facing the Nets. With Brogdon out, I do expect Holiday to start again at point guard. Should see a decent amount of usage. We are waiting on some pretty big injuries from the Pacers. Domantas Sabonis is questionable. Jeremy Lamb is questionable as well. If both of those guys are out, I expect Holiday to pick up a lot of usage, really benefit. I don't know if I want to go to him at $5,500 on DraftKings, but I want to talk about him on Yahoo, so I think he's still way too cheap over here. If we look at the point guard position, you have Aaron Holiday at $14, same price as Jordan Clarkson, same price as Derek White. I would much rather have Holiday over both those guys. He's my favorite value point guard on Yahoo. The minutes should be there with Brogdon out. He's going to get the start. The usage should be there as well. He looked really good in that game that he started against the Bucks. He got off to a pretty slow start. I was watching a decent amount of that game, and then he really started to kick it into gear. He was making a lot of shots, He had the ball in his hands a lot. 11 points, 4 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 steals, kind of chipped in all categories. That was a pretty tough matchup. Now he gets a much better matchup against Brooklyn. Too cheap on Yahoo. Really like Aaron Holiday at $14. But going back to DraftKings, I did talk about Spencer Dinwiddie. I think at $6K, he's going to be a really good play today if Kyrie is out. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander still feels way too cheap at $6,300 on DraftKings. Revenge game for him facing the Clippers, his old team, going back to LA to face the Clippers. I think SGA is for sure a good option at $6,300. If Kyrie is out, I would probably rather play Spencer Dinwiddie for cheaper, but would definitely have SGA in my player pool today. Dennis Schroeder is someone I want to talk about on DraftKings. I think he's severely underpriced at only $5,200. He's coming off 2 pretty bad games, last 2 games against the Pacers and the Sixers. Only played 25 minutes in both those games. The game against the Pacers was a blowout. I'm not sure if Schroeder played like late in the game. I probably should have looked that up before I started recording. I'm not sure if he really lost minutes there, but in that game against Philly, he only took 9 shots in that game. He just wasn't really efficient with the peripherals. We saw Chris Paul have a really big game against the Sixers last game. Most games you're getting Schroeder playing probably about 30 minutes off the bench and putting up 25, 30 DraftKings points most nights. I like the matchup against the Clippers as well. The Clippers could be without Patrick Beverley here. Even if Beverley plays, we'll see Schroeder come off the bench, play with the second unit. He'll see a much better matchup there. I really like Dennis Schroeder on $5,200. I think he projects for close to 30 fantasy points today if you give him 30 minutes, which is what he should play most nights. At that price of $5,200, he feels like a really good option. Dejounte Murray, someone that is now really cheap on DraftKings. We saw him being like close to 7K, or he was close to 7K most nights. Now he's down to $5,200 after going in a little bit of a slump. He's had, in his last 4 games, he's had 3 games less than 20 DraftKings points. Did have 26 DK points in 21 minutes against the Magic. This isn't the best game to target on the slate by any means. I mean, San Antonio, Dallas, 2 pretty slow-paced teams. But Dejounte Murray at $5,200 is a guy that just gives you so much upside at this price tag. Even though he's going to play probably 22, 24 minutes, the guy can give you 35, 40 fantasy points in limited minutes. We've seen him do it multiple times this season. So Dejounte Murray probably wouldn't be a cash play for me, but would definitely be a guy I would want some exposure to if I was playing multiple lineups. But then talking about the cheap values at point guard, there's not really much that I'm in love with at this position. I think Jarrett Culver should benefit with Andrew Wiggins already ruled out today. Or I believe Wiggins is doubtful. I'm not sure if he's already been ruled out, but he's not expected to play. Culver should see pretty good run off the bench. $4,400 in a matchup on the road against Utah. He wouldn't be my favorite value, but I would at least probably get a little bit of exposure to him. But other than that, there's really not much value that I love at point guard. So let's go ahead and talk about some shooting guards now. So just looking at the shooting guard position, you got Harden at the top, who we've already talked about. You got guys like Mitchell, we've already talked about. Just looking at guys that I haven't mentioned, I mean, Jaylen Brown, $7,700 against the Suns. Could be an interesting play. Brown's definitely benefited from the Gordon Hayward injury. We've seen him show a little bit more of a ceiling. Had 43 DraftKings points against the Warriors, 45 DK points against Dallas. $7,700 does feel like a pretty expensive price tag to pay for Jaylen Brown on this slate, so I don't know if he would be a core play for me, but I would still want a little bit of exposure to him because he does have that 45-point potential at $7,700. Could easily go for 6x if this game stays close against the Suns, which it should. So Jaylen Brown, if you're going to pay up a shooting guard, he's a fine play at $7,700, but by any means, he would not be a core play for me today. I mentioned I really like SGA at $6,300. I have a ton of interest in him. I would have a lot of interest in Spencer Dinwiddie if Kyrie is out today. If Jeremy Lamb plays, I think he's a really good option here, 6K against Brooklyn. Like I said earlier, we already know that Malcolm Brogdon is going to be out, so that takes a pretty high usage player off the floor for the Pacers. If we see Lamb start in this game, he should soak up a lot of usage with Malcolm Brogdon out, assuming he's not limited, which he shouldn't be. He's only missed about, I would say, a little bit under 2 weeks. I doubt they put him on a minutes restriction. It was an ankle injury, so, I mean, maybe they limit him, but assuming he starts and is full go, Jeremy Lamb for 6K against the Nets with Malcolm Brogdon out, I would have a lot of interest in tournaments. Honestly, could even be in play for cash games. If he's going to play full minutes, I'd have to project him for probably 36 minutes and probably close to 36 DraftKings points, which is really good for only 6K. Definitely would have interest in Jeremy Lamb today if he's able to go, especially if Sabonis sits. That's just another high usage player that you're taking off the floor. I would have even more interest in some of the Pacers guys if Sabonis is out as well. But then in this 5K range, not much that catches my eye here besides like Aaron Holiday, who you could go to. Like I said earlier, though, I have more interest in him. over on Yahoo. For value, there's not much I like either. I mean, Nicholas Batum made his return off of injury. He played 29 minutes last game against the Knicks, had 26 DraftKings points. It's pretty clear that the Hornets want to play their young guys, and Batum's not really going to be part of their foundation. They're not going to be giving Batum 30 minutes most nights, I wouldn't imagine. So it's hard to have a ton of confidence in him at 4,300, but I guess the fact that he did play 29 minutes, he closed out the game in that game against the Knicks, that's pretty nice to see. He's still cheap on DraftKings at 4,300. He wouldn't be the worst value play today, but I have a feeling we're probably going to get better value as the day goes on, so hard for me to go to him. Justin Holiday did start last game with Jeremy Lamb out. We saw both Holiday brothers start alongside each other. I believe they're brothers. They did start alongside each other with Lamb and Malcolm Brogdon out. If Lamb sits again, you should see Holiday start at the 2, probably play 34, 36 minutes. He's not going to project very well points per minute wise because he's just not that high usage of a player. But the minutes are going to be there for him. It's a pace-up spot against the Nets. He would for sure be an option if Lamb does wind up sitting today. I forgot to talk about TJ McConnell. I don't think TJ McConnell's been ruled out yet. Forgot to talk about him back at point guard. So with Malcolm Brogdon already out today, if TJ McConnell is able to play, he's listed as questionable. I don't know if they would start him. He probably would continue to come off the bench. But if we're going to get 24 minutes of TJ McConnell off the bench, McConnell's a guy that can be very productive when he's on the floor. He can score, he can rebound, he can get assists. He can really chip in all categories. I think 24 minutes of McConnell for 3,500, I would have a lot of interest in as a value play on this slate. But that's an injury we're going to have to wait and see on as the day goes on Monday. Groin injury, listed as questionable. Not sure what we're going to see in regards to that. But I would definitely have interest in him if he's able to play since Brogdon is out. But let's go ahead and talk about some small forward plays now. So we got Giannis at the top here, and like I said at the beginning of the video, I love Giannis today here on the road against the Bulls. I think this game can stay close. It should be a high-scoring game. You have two teams that are playing really fast this season, and Giannis's usage so far this season with Chris Middleton off the floor is just absolutely insane. He's $56 over on Yahoo. He's going to be a core play for me over there as well. He's my favorite spend-up on this slate. We talked about it earlier, but just looking at his usage so far this season with Chris Middleton off the floor, 35.9% usage rate, averaging just over 2 fantasy points per minute, 178 minutes played. I mean, if he plays 35, 36 minutes here, which he probably should if the game is competitive, he projects for close to 70 DraftKings points just using those numbers. And 11,300, getting the $700 decrease off of what his price was in the last slate. Love Giannis here. Just went for 38, 16, and 4 against this Bulls team. Could easily see him put up a similar performance. He's my top stud on the slate. Love Giannis. Going to try and fit him into my cash game lineup if possible. He's definitely going to be in my main builds today. But then other small forwards, you do have Kawhi at 9,300, who is for sure in play. But with Paul George now now healthy, I should say, it's hard for me to love Kawhi at 9,300. This was a guy I was playing quite a bit of this season, because he's been underpriced the whole season. He's been a guy that projects for over 50 DraftKings points, and he's been like 9K every slate. Now with Paul George in there, it's hard for me to fully invest in Kawhi on this slate. Now Kawhi is questionable, and if he were to sit, that would make Paul George a very appealing play. Paul George has just been absolutely insane. He's been going nuts with Kawhi off the floor. The 2 games that he's played this season, Kawhi has sat out both of those games. We got 24 minutes of Paul George in that game against the Pelicans. Had 49 DraftKings points. He dealt with a little bit of foul trouble in that game, so that's why he only played 24 minutes. And then the last game against the Hawks, they did blow them out. They won that game by almost 50 points. So Paul George only played 20 minutes in that game, but still put up 54 DraftKings points in 20 minutes. I mean, Paul George has just been beasting this season. If Kawhi sits again, I love Paul George at 8,100. Revenge game for him against the Thunder. If Kawhi plays and they're both healthy, I don't see myself targeting either guy as core plays. I'd probably have more interest in PG because he's $1,200 cheaper. So it's hard for me to have a ton of interest in either guy if they're both healthy. But if Kawhi sits, then obviously PG 8,100 will become really interesting. But other small forward plays you got Tatum at 7,600, who you could obviously look to, but I don't think he'd be a core play for me today. Kelly Oubre finally had a decent game. I think it was last game against the Hawks. He now got priced up to 6,200. That's probably what he should be priced in a matchup against the Celtics. I don't love Kelly Oubre today, but it was good to see him finally make some of his shots. He took 18 shot attempts in that game against the Hawks, played 36 minutes. Finally got a big game from Oubre. I don't know if I'll be chasing that game, especially with his price up to 6,200 now. I would have a lot of interest in Lamb, like I said earlier. With Brogdon out, if Lamb plays, 6K for Jeremy Lamb, he might become one of my favorite plays on the slate. TJ Warren, I played in the last slate against the Bucks when Brogdon and Lamb were all out. All those guys were out. Only 27 DraftKings points from TJ Warren in that game, which was pretty disappointing. He did play 35 minutes. He took 21 shots. So the field goal usage, or like the usage, was clearly there for him. Just shot 28% from the field. If he makes even like 3 or 4 more shots, I mean, you're getting a big game from TJ Warren, especially if Lamb is out today. If you get no Brogdon, no Lamb, I would definitely have interest in TJ Warren at 5,700 in a matchup against Brooklyn. Now, if Lamb plays, I think I would rather play Jeremy Lamb. Honestly, if Lamb plays, I think with Brogdon off the floor, you could definitely play both guys. You could play Lamb and Warren together. But if I have to just choose one, I would for sure go with Jeremy Lamb at 6K. We know Wiggins is going to be out today, but Robert Covington got priced up to 5,500, and it's a tough matchup on the road against the Jazz. So it's hard for me to consider him a core play today. Jake Layman benefited last game from Wiggins out. He did draw the start. They did start him, I believe, at the 3. They started Teague, Graham, Layman, Covington, and Towns in the last game against Houston. And Layman played really well, played 36 minutes, took 14 shots, so the volume was clearly there. He just wasn't like standing in the corner and doing nothing. He was taking a ton of shots. He was getting a couple rebounds as well, 21 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 block, 1 steal, 34 DraftKings points from Jake Layman. He's priced up to 5K on DraftKings, so I don't think he's going to be a core play for me at that price, especially in the matchup against the Jazz. If we do go over to Yahoo, though, you still got Jake Layman really cheap over on Yahoo, only $13 at the power forward position. If I'm looking for a cheap value power forward on Yahoo, Jake Layman's definitely going to be the guy here. I do expect him to start again with Wiggins out. The minutes should be there. Ryan Saunders does have a lot of trust in Jake Layman. He really likes him. He's been giving him minutes a lot this season. Even before Layman started that last game, he was getting mid-20s to upper 20s in minutes off the bench. Now with him starting, you have to project him for a lot more, or probably a lot more minutes, probably like 6 to 8 more minutes with him in the starting lineup. $13 on Yahoo really stands out as a value power forward. But I think that's it for small forward, just in terms of value plays. Josh Okogie's questionable. I probably won't be going to him if he plays. If he's out, that should benefit Layman. That should benefit Jarrett Culver. Those guys should see a few more minutes. But I think that's it for small forward value. Let's go ahead and talk about some power forward plays now. So just looking at guys at this position that I haven't talked about, you got Kevin Love at 7,800, who's for sure interesting against the Knicks. I do like this matchup a lot for Kevin Love. We're getting a little bit of a discount on Kevin Love. I mean, this was a guy that was nearly 9K earlier this season. Now he's down to 7,800. Him and Tristan Thompson both saw their prices on DraftKings really drop, and Tristan Thompson is someone we're going to talk about when we get to center. Love, though, at 7,800 for sure I have interest in. In this matchup earlier this season against the Knicks, he didn't do that well, just 28 DraftKings points in 31 minutes. I don't think Thompson did very well either. Pretty sure both guys struggled. It was a blowout. I mean, the Cavs won that game by 21 points. Love still played 32 minutes, but I do expect this game to be close. The Knicks don't really have any good defenders. I mean, they're not going to be a good defensive team. I'm not sure where the Knicks rank in pace this season. I'm pretty sure they're towards the bottom of the league. Yeah, the Knicks rank 27th in pace. The Cavs rank 21st, so it's not really going to be a fast-paced game, but it's two pretty bad defensive teams, so I could see Kevin Love putting up a big game at 7,800. Now, if Kawhi is out, I mean, give me Paul George at 8,100 all day over Kevin Love, but like I said earlier, that's news we're going to have to wait and see on as the day goes on Monday. Now, Domantas Sabonis is questionable, and that's a big injury we're going to need to watch on Monday. If he plays, I love him here at 7,300 against the Nets. I mean, big men against the Nets is going to be something we target all season. We're going to talk about Miles Turner when we get to center. I have a lot of interest in Miles Turner today. Sabonis has seen his price, though, on DraftKings really drop. He's coming off 2 straight games of under 40 DraftKings points. He was 8,700, then 8,500. Now he's down to 7,300. Sabonis would be a top play for me on this slate if he's able to play today, especially in this matchup against the Nets. Even playing alongside Miles Turner, you expect Sabonis to be a very productive player. I mean, the dude's just so good. He's a great rebounder. He can score. Gives you 20-10 upside almost every night. Really like him in this matchup. Just got to wait and see if he's going to be able to play today. But other power forwards we got, I mean, just scrolling through, I mean, I think not Robert Covington, but TJ Warren, 5,700. I would definitely have interest in today with Brogdon out, especially if Lamb is out as well. For value here, you got Jake Layman at 5K, who's a fine option, but like I said earlier, I have a lot more interest in him over on Yahoo. I do want to talk about Daniel Tice as a value. I think he is one value power forward that stands out. So far, just as of late, with Enes Kanter healthy, it's pretty much been Tice and Kanter splitting the center minutes for the Celtics. We've seen Robert Williams get like 6-7 minutes off the bench. I believe last game against the Kings, you had Tice play 22 minutes, Kanter played 19 minutes, and then Robert Williams played 7 minutes. So it's pretty much going to be like a 50-50 even split between Tice and Kanter with the center minutes. Tice, though, is only 4K on DraftKings. It's a great matchup against the Suns. If you give him like 24 minutes, which is what he should play in this game, he probably projects for about 24 DraftKings points. So at 4K, especially since he has power forward eligibility on DraftKings, if he was only center, I wouldn't have a ton of interest in him today because I just think there are better center plays. Like on Yahoo, you have to play Tice at center, so I don't really have much interest in him over there. But since you can play him at power forward on DraftKings, I really like him at only 4K. I expect him to continue to start. Kanter's going to continue to be the backup center, so Tice should get the most run out of those two guys, especially if he's playing well. Should probably get mid to low 20s in minutes, and Kanter will get the other minutes that Tice doesn't play. Maybe Robert Williams will eventually get pushed out of the rotation and won't even get minutes at all, and you'll just have a 50-50 even split between Tice and Kanter. But Tice I do like a lot on DraftKings as a power forward value at 4K. Goga Patazzi would be interesting today if Domantas Sabonis is out. He hasn't really gotten minutes lately, but that's because Miles Turner and Sabonis have both been healthy. If Sabonis is out, you'll see Goga probably play about 20 to 22 minutes off the bench. In a matchup against Brooklyn, he's a very productive player, could easily go for 20, 25 DraftKings points if he gets the minutes. So that definitely that will affect him if Sabonis is out. Goga should benefit. But let's go ahead and talk about centers now before we end the video. So there's a lot of plays I like at this position. Starting off at the top with Karl-Anthony Towns at 10,200. This is for sure a tough matchup for Karl-Anthony Towns, but his usage with Andrew Wiggins off the floor skyrockets. It pretty much has this season. We can pull it up real quick just so you guys can see. Pull up the Timberwolves, take Wiggins off the floor. Like I said earlier, it's not confirmed that Wiggins is out yet, but he's doubtful, so I do not expect him to play. So Towns is going to benefit. Covington is going to benefit. Jeff Teague should benefit as well. So just so far this season with Wiggins off the floor, 137 minutes played, 31.5% usage rate for Karl-Anthony Towns, 1.87 fantasy points per minute. Just been an absolute beast this season, been a beast with Wiggins off the floor. Only concern I have with Towns is the matchup. I mean, tough spot against Rudy Gobert and the Jazz. Rudy Gobert is one of the best defensive centers in the league, but Towns still remains underpriced on DraftKings at 10,200. Like I said earlier in the video, I'm going to be prioritizing Giannis on this slate, and I want to pay up for Giannis if possible. So I don't know if I'll be able to get to Towns in my main lineup unless we just get a lot of value and I can fit him with Giannis, but I just don't know if that's going to be the case today. So Towns isn't going to be a core play for me, but definitely a guy I want to have exposure to, even in the tough matchup. His price is just still too cheap on DraftKings at 10,200. The guy gives you 55, 60-point upside every time he steps on the floor. I mean, I would say his floor right now is 40, 45 DraftKings points, and he gives you 65, 70-point upside. But other power forwards we have, other centers, I guess. You got Siakam at 9K, who I do like in this matchup against the Hornets, but for 9K, I would probably just try and find the $1,200 and get up to Karl-Anthony Towns, or just drop down to some of the guys we're about to talk about. You got Kevin Love, who I mentioned you can play at center, 7,800. Domantas Sabonis, I love today. If he's able to play against Brooklyn, he'll become one of my favorite plays on the slate. I would much rather have him over Aldridge and Whiteside and Julius Randle. Now, Miles Turner is someone I want to talk about. So regardless of if Sabonis plays or not, I think Miles Turner is a very strong option in this matchup against Brooklyn. If Sabonis is out, I think Miles Turner becomes one of my favorite plays on the slate in this matchup. Brooklyn has been a team we've targeted all season with bigs. It's been even with DeAndre Jordan on the team now, they're still a team that's really struggled to defend centers. We've seen centers put up monster games against the Nets. And Miles Turner, in his first game back from injury against the Bucks, he looked really good in that game. 33 minutes played, 44 DraftKings points, had a double-double with 4 blocks. Turner is a guy that just gives you double-double upside every time he steps on the floor. He's a great shot blocker. I expect a big game from him today. Even if Sabonis is in, I think you can still get close to 40 DraftKings points from Turner. I want to run the numbers with Sabonis off the floor this season, see what we get from the Pacers, just in case he's out today. So let me pull up the Pacers. We can take off Malcolm Brogdon as well since we know he's going to be out. So we're not going to get much of a sample size, but with Sabonis and Brogdon off the floor this season, let's see what we got here. Miles Turner, 24 minutes played with both those guys off the floor, so not much of a sample size, but still 27% usage rate, 1.39 fantasy points per minute. Jeremy Lamb, only 10 minutes played, so obviously not much of a sample size here, but 30% usage rate for him, 1.22 fantasy points per minute. Just looking at the guys that have played the most minutes, Justin Holiday, Doug McDermott, not really benefited much. I mean, those guys aren't going to be very productive players at all. TJ McConnell, I did talk about earlier in the video. I would have a lot of interest in him, even if he comes off the bench for 3,500. Probably going to get 24, mid-20s in minutes from McConnell with Brogdon out. 20.7% usage rate for him, over 1 fantasy point per minute with both Sabonis and Brogdon off the floor. But clearly the beneficiaries here, if Brogdon and Sabonis are both out, well, we know Brogdon's going to be out, but if Sabonis sits, Miles Turner's going to be one of the biggest beneficiaries, and it's a great matchup against Brooklyn, so I love him on today's slate. And we talked about Jeremy Lamb earlier in the video. I would love Jeremy Lamb today if he's able to play. Now, if we do go over to Yahoo, the center position's pretty tough today. You got Towns at 52 that you could pay up for. Clint Capella at $30 I like a lot. I think he still remains underpriced on Yahoo. Turner's $27 though. I don't think he's going to be a core play for me over on Yahoo unless Sabonis is out. Then I would have a lot of interest in him at 27. Now at 6,100 on Draftkings, I think Turner gives you plenty of upside on that price even if Sabonis plays. I'll probably be looking for some value at center, and I think there are a couple values that stand out. One guy that I've just been playing a lot over on Yahoo is Aaron Baines. It is a revenge game for him facing his former team, the Celtics. This Celtics team defensively versus centers since they lost Al Horford, it's just not the same defensive team versus bigs. Enes Kanter, Daniel Tice, Robert Williams, these guys aren't going to scare you defensively. Baines really struggled last game with foul trouble, got 4 fouls in 18 minutes against the Hawks. Most nights you're going to get 30 minutes from Aaron Baines, and most nights you're going to get 30-plus fantasy points from him. For $17 on Yahoo, I think he still remains way too cheap, and I do like him as a center value play, especially since I'm trying to pay up for Giannis. It's going to be pretty hard to pay up at the center position if I want to get Giannis in my lineups, unless I'm going to like Capella or Turner, who I said you could play. But center for me on Yahoo is mostly going to be Aaron Baines at $17. I like him a lot. Going back to DraftKings, though, love Turner today at $6,100. And then I also want to talk about Tristan Thompson. So Tristan Thompson has seen his price plummet on DraftKings. He's down to $5,600 after being close to $8K earlier in the season. We saw Tristan Thompson get off to a hot start. This guy was putting up 20 and 10 on some nights, 23 and 10 against the Bulls, 17 and 13 with 4 assists against the Bucks, 40, 49 DraftKings points, 44 DK points, 51. When he did play the Knicks earlier this season, only 25 DK points in 30 minutes. But you could have got a much better game from Thompson. I mean, he was 1 rebound and 1 point shy of the double-double bonus. So if he gets that 1 rebound and that 1 point and then gets the double-double bonus, that's 5 more points there. So I would probably project Thompson for over 30 minutes here, probably like low 30s in minutes. I'd have to project him for probably mid-30s in DraftKings points. And at $5,600 in a really good matchup against the Knicks, I think Tristan Thompson has seen his price plummet on DraftKings for really no reason. This guy's going to be a guy that gives you a double-double most nights. There's a lot of players today on DraftKings that have just seen their price plummet, I should say, because of like poor performances. Like Sabonis' price has dropped a lot, Dennis Schroeder's price has dropped a lot, Tristan Thompson's price has dropped a lot, and these guys are still really good plays. If you just don't look at the game log, these guys are going to give you really good value on their salaries most nights. I mean, Thompson's averaged 36 DraftKings points this season for $5,600 against the Knicks. Just too good of a price to pass up. So I really like him at the center position. Steven Adams at $5,100 against the Clippers, I still think is too cheap on DraftKings. Aaron Baines at $5,100 is too cheap on DraftKings as well. I would try and get up to Thompson if possible, but Baines and Adams are for sure options that you could consider. Jared Allen I would like a lot if he was power forward eligible. We saw earlier this season he was power forward eligible. Now that you can only play him at center on DK, it's really tough for me to get to him on today's slate, especially because you have Adams and Baines for only $200 more, who I would just rather have. But I think that's it for center, guys. I think that's it for today's video. You can play Tice here as a value as well, who I talked about earlier. Hopefully you guys did enjoy this video, and hopefully it did help you. If you enjoyed, make sure you drop a like down below before you get out of here. I would greatly appreciate it. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you have not already. Like always, if you have questions, comments, if you want to leave feedback, you can do so down below in the comment section. You can also hit me up on Twitter. Feel free to give me a follow over on Twitter at DFS by Noah. Very active over there. You can DM me, DM me and reach out to me over on Twitter if you need to. But I think that's it, guys. Good luck on tonight's slate. Appreciate you watching the video. We will see you in the next one. Peace.